Hello, and welcome to the USO Anomaly. Now, before talking about this topic, and to avoid confusion, I should mention that this has nothing to do with the USO, that is the United States Service Organization, founded by Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1941. The topic of this video is about the less famous version of UFOs, known as USOs, or Unidentified Submerged Objects. Many of you may have heard this term used by Bill Burns from the History Channel show called UFO Hunters. So, what are these objects and why are they rarely talked about? USOs, or as previously mentioned, Unidentified Submerged Objects, are primarily seen as spacecraft that fly around water and in most reports dive into the surface no matter what speed it is going. Normally they can take the shape of a typical UFO saucer or cigar style. In one interesting case, a craft shaped like a cylinder was seen entering the water, but even though the ends were blunt, it didn't make a splash at all. I should mention that frequently they can be seen as lights above the water, or more fitting for this video, lights from under the water's surface. One of the strangest things about most all experiences is the fact that while entering the water, they normally don't disturb the surface. This phenomenon has led many to believe that some sort of unknown shielding is used to withstand and disrupt the water tension. Even though the topic has recently seemed to have picked up in popularity, they've actually been reported farther back than you may think. The first documented report was written by Massachusetts Governor John Winthrop in January of 1644. According to the documents, a ship that was captained by John Chaddock blew up and sank near Battery Street, North End in Boston. The cause of the explosion was believed to have been started when the spark of a flintlock pistol ignited barrels of gunpowder aboard the ship. 16 days after the explosion, at midnight, 3 men in a boat approaching Boston saw 2 bright lights emerge from the site of the wreckage and float above the surface of the water. The lights then moved toward the shore and finally vanished when they reached Rose Wharf. Oddly enough, the men stated that the lights formed together before reaching land and took the shape of a man. A week after this event, many people saw the twin lights again emerge near Castle Rock and fly across the water's surface, only to vanish once it met the spot where the ship's wreckage was. The last reported sighting states that at 8 o'clock, a single light that resembled the moon rose from the wreckage and flew through the air towards Noddle's Island, which is now East Boston, to which it was joined by the second light. The two merged into one and then separated multiple times, all the while shooting out sparks as they flew. Finally they joined one last time to form a huge dish shape and slowly floated off into the sky until they were out of sight. I should mention that at the time many people attributed the events to ghosts or the belief that one of the wrecked ship's crew members were a necromancer, but those reports seem fairly similar to some UFO reports we have today. Although I mentioned that the previous encounter was the first, there actually was one earlier, but due to circumstances it seems no one wants to claim it was a USO. On October 11th, 1492, crew members of the Santa Maria, Pinta, and Nina witnessed a strange light which was recorded by none other than Christopher Columbus. According to the records, he stated that while out in the ocean, the men saw a light the size of a candle floating in the distance above the water. As they watched it, it rose up and back down and finally disappeared. This encounter has been called the 1492 light sighting, and a few have come forward to debunk it as natural or man-made, but none of the explanations fit. One of the most famous sightings occurred on October 4th, 1967 at Shag Harbor in Nova Scotia. According to reports, multiple witnesses saw a 60-foot-long craft flying with orange lights. Suddenly the craft tilted towards the water at a 45-degree angle and disappeared under the surface. In the reports it states that the craft could be seen traveling under the water and it left a trail of yellow foam in its wake. Quickly, civilian and military personnel arrived at the scene to try to rescue any survivors or recover the craft, thinking it was a downed airplane. Officially, nothing was found, but this case has taken on a bit of a Roswell flair. Some state that the military knew the craft was no longer in the water and that they had been tracking it to where it finally rested off the coast of Shelburne. A fisherman stated he saw the recovery crew dragging metal out of the waters. No matter what story is correct, they all claim that the craft was never recovered, and after the search was called off, Witnesses claimed they saw the same craft come out of the water and fly off out of sight. A few years ago, the Russian Navy declassified reports containing encounters with USOs, which mainly came from reputable sources. A nuclear submarine on a combat mission in the Pacific Ocean was reportedly pursued by 6 unknown objects. No matter how much the crew maneuvered the sub, they couldn't shake the assailants. Finally, the admiral ordered the crew to bring the sub to the surface, and that is when they saw the 6 objects shoot out of the water and fly off into the sky. Russia's Lake Baikal is known for many strange occurrences, including a sea monster known simply as the Demon, but it is also known for USO sightings and strange lights under the water. In 1982, a group of military divers were training in the lake when they came across what they claimed to be human-like beings in the water at a depth of 50 meters or 164 feet, dressed in silver suits. The divers tried to catch up with the beings, and without explanation, the report simply states that 3 of the 7 men died, while 4 were injured. What exactly happened after they chased the beings? We may never know. There are multiple other reported sightings, but I wanted to go over only a few of them. Oddly enough, it seems that while researching this topic, I looked up locations with known sightings such as Table Rock Lake, Missouri, and Blue Heron Pier in Florida, but it seems there is very little information outside of travel guides. Even while looking up the topic on Wikipedia, the listing was, dare I say, brief. So what exactly are USOs? There are quite a few theories, but as usual, very few answers. The most obvious conclusion is that they are military craft that are being housed under the water for secrecy. While researching this, I did see images of submersible military drones that could fly as well, that looked a lot like the X-47B. Sadly, I can't find those pictures now that I want to add them. Another theory is that they are alien spacecraft that either choose to stay hidden from view by being in the oceans, or that they aren't visiting but have been on Earth the whole time. A big part of all theories is that there are underwater bases that the USOs go into. Some state that there are tunnels connecting all of the bases as well. With the Earth being covered by 70% ocean, it would be one of the best places to stay hidden. If you add the 27% that is covered by all other water, it makes an interesting argument to the possibility of secret watercraft more plausible. Also, keep in mind that there have been quite a few USO sightings in or around lakes, many of which have known underwater tunnels connecting to other bodies of water. What do you think? Before I go, I would like to thank Joseph Blau and Dave Winchell for becoming patrons of mine. As always, if you are interested, the link for it will be down in the description, but it is purely up to you. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.